Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. On September 23rd, we are in the waning moon cycle. We are moving away from the energy of the lunar eclipse that happened over a week ago. And we are moving towards the last eclipse of the year, which will be the solar next week. And I'll talk more about that next week. But basically what's happening when we're in this highly charged time in between eclipses is that stuff is happening. Of course, stuff is always happening. But with eclipses, there's a ramping up. There's an immediacy, a sense of action and anticipation. And we see this emphasized depending on where these eclipses might be triggering an individual's horoscope. Certainly in the case of the United States, when we look at the two major candidates, we can see that there's a lot of eclipse activity there, which I've written and spoken about and will continue to on my other portal with the things that I write and talk about. But for the week, for our planning, for what it is that we as individuals are orchestrating and bringing about, yes, we are going to still be noticing a lot of high activity in the news cycles, but for each of us as individuals, as that moon is traveling, we may be experiencing something that is speaking about how this high activity time is affecting us. Now, for all of us, not necessarily as personally. It depends where the moon is moving through your horoscope, what the eclipses have been triggering. And to give you a sense, on Monday, the 23rd, the times I give are Eastern time, so you need to adjust depending on where you live, but the moon is in the sign of Gemini. Now, as that moon is traveling through the sign of Gemini, it is touching, experiencing different geometric pictures with other planetary energies that symbolize friction, activity, things going on. The auspicious piece about this day is that the moon will be in direct alignment with the planet Jupiter in the early evening hours. So this is actually very sweet for some of us who have a point in our horoscope that Jupiter is magnifying in a positive way. Jupiter, the energy that has to do, we call it the great benefic. And actually, there's this crazy brief series on streaming now called Chaos, and it's about Jeff Goldblum playing Zeus, and of course, someone like me who studies mythology and symbolism and is an astrologer has all kinds of opinions about how they're taking this storyline. But the self-absorption of the Zeus character, the sense of everything must revolve around me, and I am the center of action. I am the ultimate power. Basically, when we have very strong Jupiter in our personal horoscope, we can have this really strong sense of what it is I can make as an imprint, how I must get my point across. Jupiter will escalate whatever energy it is in alignment to. So when it's going through a fast moving transit, in this case, the moon to Jupiter, it's magnifying that energy within perhaps your personal horoscope or just the basic attitude, emotional weather of the day, because the moon is about the emotional weather of the day. So when Jupiter is in direct alignment with the moon, it is blowing up how that feels to the person, where it is, where that falls in your horoscope. So to make that a little clearer, on this day, September 23rd, Jupiter is moving in, as I said, the sign of Gemini. It's direct, and it is around 20 degrees and change, and about to go 21 degrees of Gemini. So if you've got a mutable point, Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, or Virgo in your horoscope, that's a very important position, you may be feeling that magnified sense of some kind of emotional charge, content, whatever is happening. Overall, it can tend to be good, but we have to look at the other things going on and what that actually means. So it's important to know, if you're following astrology on a regular basis, where Gemini falls in your personal horoscope, because then you'd be able to know here, oh, the moon is transiting my fourth house, house of family, my home. It's transiting my seventh house, house of intimate relationships. And so there will be a big emotional charge around this point in time for me. Depending on if we're initiating something or there's something big happening that day that we are emphasizing or wanting to work with, the upshot of the action can certainly be in our favor, depending, as I said, where that Jupiter falls. And it also has to do with what the overall outcome is, or desired outcome. It can be that something that we were very attached to is dissolving, is falling away. And this can be a good thing if it's something that's been taking, all the air out of the room, or more time than we really wanted to spend, or it's especially anything that's about endings, grief, something that has been like following us in a way. And it's important to move from it, to complete from it. It's not necessarily easy to do, but a conscious awareness of, yes, this is a completion time. This is a time to let this move into another dimension, shift, change the dialogue of it. And that can be very empowering for those who focus on that, want to talk about it, want to define it, and release it. The 24th, Tuesday, can have that similar feeling, especially in the wee hours of the morning, the sense of, this is something that's moving from my life. And there can be a sadness about it, a bittersweet quality, but the important piece here is to recognize that to hold it is diminishing power, is diminishing your sense of being able to actualize something. The moon goes void, of course, at 7:59 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and it enters the sign of Cancer at 10:50 a.m. So those early morning hours till mid-morning, best to work on things already in motion, avoid starting anything new or anything that you really want to kind of push or get off the ground. Also, remember it's the waning moon cycle and we're in between eclipses. So anything that can kind of be benchmarked or put on hold, or also, as I said about Monday, anything that can be completed that you just want to put to rest. This is a really good time to just sort of get it off your desk, get it out of your closet, move it out of the space. When the moon enters Cancer, we're in different energy. It's moon in Cancer compared to moon in Gemini. You want to stay or start or be somewhere that feels comfortable. That's kind of the way to get the good juice out of the day. We don't really like to be places or push ourselves in ways that feel unfamiliar or where we're not feeling a sense of being grounded or surrounded by things that, okay, this is where I'm having lunch, this is how I'm making this happen. It's not, we're not in that place where we want to be like flying without a net or in a high risk way of thinking. And ideally, if we're in situations or around people who we have easy rapport with, or sometimes it's not always easy, but once again, it's familiar. We know what we're dealing with, then the machine or what needs to happen can just sort of be what it needs to be and move through. Now, that being said, on Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday, actually, until the early evening, it's important to recognize what might be in your way. And sometimes what is in your way is actually, as I said many times for people who listen regularly, looks at you in the mirror. We often can be the biggest thing in our way, depending on what we want to realize, how we want to move forward, what it is we wish to accomplish. In the sign of Cancer, as the moon is positioned, this can also bring up family situations, the not wanting to move. A classic example I can think of is, let's say someone has a job offer or it's time to change locations, but there's that anxiety or sense of loyalty, attachment to, this is where I live, this is what I know, how can I sell my house? And I'm not saying it's going to be that extreme, but it can feel like there's something that wants us to challenge or move or direct, and yet there's a quality of not wanting to upset or move or do something that's going to challenge, threaten, or change what it is that we're used to. There's no reason to rush into this. It can also feel less extreme. It could be, oh, I need to have a conversation with so-and-so about this, and how can I avoid that as long as possible? So it can be about that too. And that may feel even bigger than moving across the country or to the other side of the planet. It just depends how emotionally triggered this is for a person and their sense of personal power or ability to embrace a change that feels like something they just don't want to do. So Tuesday and Wednesday may not feel as charged as what I'm talking about, but we could be laying the groundwork or starting to move in certain directions that will bring that up. And so we don't necessarily have to deal directly with something that feels so big or uncomfortable right away, but it does help to have an awareness of, if I start to put these things in place, what's going to be the outcome, or what is it I'm going to have to deal with? Because when we're prepared and when we're planning and in motion with certain strategies, it's easier to actually meet and then embrace what needs to happen as we get to the ultimate outcome. So Thursday the 26th can be when basically the rubber meets the road on some of this, or we hit that place where we're feeling like, okay, now's when I have to take that deep dive and basically meet the level that I don't really want to directly go in. Now, it can be something we've absolutely planned for. I think of situations where someone knows they have to develop a strategy or meet someone in a situation that is challenging and basically confrontational, and they know this is what they have to do. It may be more subtle than that. It may be something that just comes up. It all depends on how conscious or engaged a person's been with what this might look like. Now, this could be you knowing that eventually you're going to be challenged on something, or it could be you just setting up doing things that you know are best for everyone involved, and then someone challenges you on it. Or it can be a direct, let's roll our sleeves up and we know what we're doing here. It can be a situation that doesn't even feel like it's something that we directly invited or expected to have. But the important thing to be aware of on Thursday, the 26th, is if you find yourself in a discussion, a argument, a situation that feels uncomfortable to you, the important place is to hold on to what it is you feel is of value, but also be willing to just let go or not engage with something that doesn't really matter as much. And this is the tricky part with this kind of energy, because depending on how much ego is involved, sometimes we get swept in to the drama, the passion, the expression of the moment. But it really is not as important as we may think it is. and to actually be able to make a decision that I'm not engaging or I'm not invested in this as much as someone else is, can be very liberating and also help move us to another place of self-understanding. So it can be subtle. It can be something that's not happening directly to you. It can be something you're feeling psychologically or emotionally. The best antidote, I have to say, is to allow whatever that release may be that needs to come up in the early evening, and then relax. Be kind to yourself. The rest of the evening, especially once the moon moves into Leo, can be a time where we just enjoy music, theater, something nice we want to watch on TV, painting, cooking, some sort of creative connection, cuddling. All those things are lovely antidotes to what may have been an emotionally loaded couple of days. The moon is still in the sign of Leo on Friday the 27th and on the 28th. The thing to be keeping aware of on the 27th and 28th is that these days can feel like a lot of fun. These can be days when we're clicking along, we feel a lot of spontaneous energy. We may feel very inspired by certain things. We can feel very jazzed and excited, and all that is good, good, good. The important thing is you want to be on alert. This increases on Saturday. And what I mean by that is things can change. So you can be, oh, yeah, let's take a weekend away. Let's do this. And you're on this lovely weekend away and you're just having a great time. And suddenly there's a power failure. And you literally are camping out in the weekend house. And so it's not necessarily bad, but it's looking at not taking anything for granted, that it's going to just continue to buzz along easy peasy, because there is an indication that there will be some sort of upset or surprise that comes in on the day. Now, as I always say, how personally this affects you will have to do with where that moon in Leo is traveling through your horoscope. And also, in this case, where the planet Uranus is. So Uranus is in late degree Taurus right now. The moon in the sign of Leo. These are both fixed signs. So other signs that may be directly affected are Aquarius and Scorpio, because those are the other two fixed signs. So moon, sun, rising sign, another planetary energy or angle that is being directly affected by how this configuration will shine in the sky. Not that we necessarily see it, but it is speaking about how things can come out of the blue and shake what seems to be how things are going. And that can be fun. That can be spontaneous and exciting. But it's going to depend what the incident actually is, how directly it affects us, and what our response is to what that looks like. And so some people, when they hear me talk like this, say, wow, yeah, something's going to happen we don't expect, and they're excited. Other people are just like, oh man, what is she talking about? I don't like change. I don't like excitement. I don't like things that are unexpected. Temperament has a lot to do with how we respond, obviously. And what this can look like is it can be something that, well, absolutely, that we hear about in the news, that, oh, this happened or that happened, and it's this unexpected change or segue, things that aren't going any longer the way we thought they were. Not necessarily bad or good. Depends on how everybody reacts and what's around. Can be something that's quite changing. One of the things that astrologers always look at, well, depending on the astrologer, but looking at world horoscopes, horoscopes of cities, horoscopes of famous individuals, president, prime ministers of countries. These birthdays of places, of people, show us, okay, so there's movement in the sky, and this person's sun is being triggered. This country's moon is being triggered. What is that going to mean? And obviously, there's a lot of people and places in the world. So we're not necessarily pinning each time, hey, this is going to happen then. But for individuals who regularly look at their horoscopes and understand what the planetary movements are, we can have a sense of orientation as to, okay, this can happen, that can play out. So when I give these overall weather things, I'm talking about this can be an upset. How personally it affects you depends on your personal horoscope and the people around you. So Sunday, the 29th, the moon has gone void of course the night before at 11:36 p.m. and it enters Virgo at 5:42 a.m. And this is kind of the softer landing because honestly, this week is a changeable week. There's a lot of things that we don't anticipate that can come out or at us or up. And it doesn't mean that it's just totally chaotic, but it does mean that the more conscious we are, the more alert we are to our reactions, the more in control we are to how we respond to certain situations, the better the outcome overall in all situations. But once that moon has entered Virgo on Sunday, this day looks like a great day for recuperating, recharging, getting things together for the week ahead. And as I said, the week ahead, I'll be talking about another eclipse. You'll be getting the meditation will drop sometime later in the week to help prepare you for it. But I will talk more about that on next week's recording. But overall, just know that when we're in eclipse season, we're in a time where we are in a period of change and transitions. And how we respond to those changes and transitions are what lays the groundwork for how the year ends and how we invite in the coming year, 2025. So anyway, have a great week. Enjoy that restorative Sunday. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends, and if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.